Lakeside is red hot and ready to race.
Hi, this is Stan. Well, the track is done. What do you think? Let's take a look. Well, there it is in the game room, the Lakeside Raceway. Episode number 9. Now, episode number 8 was kind of the conclusion of the formal build series. We were able to get electrons to flow on the track, but there were a lot of little details that had to be finished up. So what I thought I would do is I'll just give you a little tour and you can see how we went from a functioning track to a completely done track. Well, 99.9% done. The track is in my game room. So this is the part of the room for going slow. And this, of course, is part of the room for going fast. And there's a little fix-up area, a little fiddling area underneath the track over in the corner. And there's room on both sides of the track for marshals, the guys helping the crash cars, and observers. Probably the first thing you notice are the lights. Got them painted and installed on the track, and they really highlight the colors on the cars and the action. And all the crash walls are up. In the curved areas I went with 3 inches above the track, and on the straightaway where there shouldn't be a lot of shenanigans going on, I just went with 2 inches. And you can see I have some signage put up, but not too much. The walls I painted black on the outsides here, but on the inside of the walls I made them white, and that is to reflect as much light as possible and brighten up the track. And here you can see in the center I've got some green going. Here's the lake, more on that in a minute. I've got some lane colors, but I didn't go crazy because with only 3 lanes you're either out lane, in lane, or middle, and there's no overlap, so most of the guys are smart enough to kind of keep track of the colors. Blue on the inside, white middle lane, and red outer lane. And a lot of hand painting to get the curbs and the white line that goes around everywhere to define the center of the track. So the track name Lakeside, well, I live near an urban lake here in my neighborhood, so I felt like, well, I needed a water feature on the track. There's some unused space here in the middle. So what I did is early on, I routed out, just randomly by hand, I routed out a space right after I routed the lanes on an earlier episode. And I started playing around with some green paint, but more importantly, in here, I used some acrylic paint and I painted the bottom of the lake, and I wanted to give it a feeling of some depth. So you'll notice there's some light colors around the edge and some just about a black in the very center. And so I blended the colors in toward the center itself, which again gives a feeling of depth. And I used an epoxy. I went to Hobby Lobby, but you got to read the boxes pretty carefully because some of the epoxy is designed to be only used in a very thin film. Some of it is designed to do more thick layers, and that's the stuff I got. And I tried to calculate the volume that I'd need for this, but I just lucked out. It just so happened that I mixed up the whole box and poured it in, and it was just enough. And then for the edge, I took some ballast that I use on my railroad around the yard, and I got a piece of screen and I filtered out all the fine powder, and I ended up with a collection of small little rocks. And so I glued those in with Elmer's glue, which dries clear. But then I had to go back because the rocks were all shiny now because of the glue. I had to go back with a dulling compound and paint some dulling on the top of the rock all the way around the edge, and that was before I put the epoxy in. And I wasn't sure how much of the action would end up in the middle of the track, so in addition to the crash walls that I put in, I also added some little picket fencing and page fencing to give it a little bit of flavor and color, but mostly to prevent cars from getting into the middle. But as it's turned out, so far, although we've only had one official race, none of the vehicles wanted to really crash through the fence and get into the middle. But we'll see as time goes on. Next was the skirting. Bought a ton of black fabric and spent literally an entire Saturday washing the fabric, ironing it out, and then seaming it, stitching it all, trying to get the lower part of the track all covered up because we're going to use this area in here for storage. And I think it turned out okay. But it literally was a full day of me sitting at the sewing machine. I didn't have the heart to commandeer my wife to help me with the sewing as she had other stuff to do, and it's fun to play with a sewing machine now and then. And now that the walls are painted and the skirt is on, you can really see the effect that I was looking for. I wanted kind of a Star Trek-y floating driver station. Looks like it's suspended in space, and I think it turned out pretty cool. I decided to mount all the electronicals and software management paraphernalia off to the side of the track rather than on the track itself or in the middle or whatever, trying to keep all the out of scale things off the track. It makes taking pictures a little bit easier. But got a little cheapo shelf thing there, and I got our laptop and some supplies, the power supplies down here, and just keeps this garbagey stuff off the track. I did decide to go ahead and upgrade the TrackMate board. Remember, I had the old red board, which was a serial port board that I talked about in the last episode. But I decided to upgrade to the new USB board. And that allowed me to, in addition to having just a single USB cable and not have to have the serial cable with the driver, I also installed a remote control button so the track marshal can hit the yellow flag as well as the drivers. So this will be a nice convenient addition. And there's nothing like a big monitor for the hard of hearing. So one of our racers, Lee, brought this down for me, a big Sony screen, so we can have our scores up in large format on the wall. It's a little easier to see than looking at the small laptop down over here when you're racing. The height of my HO trains is a stand-up only. However, the track can be operated standing or you can be seated. I've got a piano bench really handy there, so you can sit down and drive the cars, or you can stand up, and that is pretty handy. Well, I won't bore you with guys standing around racing small cars, but in the spirit of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, let's reduce ourselves in size and take a couple of laps around the track. Well, that's going to wrap it up for right now. I hope you had fun seeing some of the finishing touches on the track here at Lakeside Raceway. This is Stan saying thank you so much for watching. Stay fast, make sure you got enough brake, and I'll see you right here next time.